You are Locked On Vikings POSTCAST, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Vikings collapse in Detroit. They cough up the chance at the division crown. They cough up the chance at the 1 seed. Final score, 31-9. What's going on? Back in the lab, back at it. Another Vikings postcast episode right here on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Network. Your team every day. Remember, you can always find the show on audio if you want to listen under the Locked On Sports Minnesota podcast feed and on video, of course, on the Locked On Sports Minnesota YouTube channel. Make sure you like and subscribe to keep up with all the action. All right, fellas, lots to dive into tonight, including Sam Darnold and the offensive woes, especially down in the red zone tonight. Plus, we got to preview this Rams game next Monday night. But first, quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. Terms and conditions apply. All right, Ron, I always like to start with you. Vikes had everything on the line tonight. The division, the 1 seed. People were calling this the biggest regular season game, maybe in NFL history, just given the consequences for the team that lost. Sam Darnold. Maybe Sam Darnold looked like the Sam Darnold that people thought he was going to look like when he signed here back in the summer. I thought the Vikings defense did a heck of a job keeping them in this game until the second half, but Vikes now have to go on the road next Monday night, visit L.A., see the Rams once again. How are we feeling, Ron? What are the vibes? What are your A topics, I guess, after this one?
They got to go back to the drawing board. I look at the red zone offense. I broke it down on the pregame show. I said the Lions' red zone offense is one of the most aggressive. I said their third down. I said this all week. Third down for them is like fourth down. You cannot let them get an inch, because if they get 1 or 2 yards on third down, they're going to go for it on fourth down, and that's what we saw. But the Vikings offense in the red zone, to me, I mean, now hindsight being 2020, you could say, you know what, if you took the field goals, it still wouldn't have mattered. But I felt like that would have been a different mindset and a feeling if they walked away every time with points. Maybe they don't feel so defeated. Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison had their worst game ever. Good to get it out the way, because now they have to go to L.A. They flushed this one down the toilet. But I'd say red zone play calling for Kevin O'Connell, he has to get a little bit simpler with second level. So 3-step, if it's not there, boom, hitch, and then throw to the next throw. He didn't give Sam Darnold options. It felt like everything was like a design play. It has to work. And like Jordan Addison on the flat route wide open, but he had a wheel. So that's why Sam Darnold, everybody's like, throw it there. Jalen Naylor was coming across, but by then he's getting flushed out the pocket. And the next one, Jordan Addison had the slant, but I think it was actually like a slant clear and seam or something, because he didn't just run a slant and sit down. He kept trying to go like up the seam to the back of the end zone. So whatever the play calls were, whatever the designs were, they just felt way too long in the red zone.
Yeah, Sam and Luke, I want your take on that, because for me, just watching it initially, the way it unfolded, obviously we haven't gone back and watched this at all, but for me, Sam Darnold just looked, I mean, like the moment was a little too big. Maybe some jitters. I don't know. I mean, a lot of overthrows. Yeah, a couple of those balls hit JJ in the hand, but you know, these aren't like 30-yard bombs downfield. We're talking in the red zone. He started 1 for 9 inside the Detroit 10-yard line for 3 yards. Was that your guys' same kind of knee-jerk reaction? Was it more on KOC you were, I guess, frustrated at, or more on Darnold early on?
Excuse me. Sorry. Go ahead, Sam. My goodness. I thought that there were open receivers early that Darnold missed. He was wild high early in that game. Had a couple balls to Hawkinson that need to be completed. He missed Jefferson twice high for touchdowns. After that, I thought that he got skittish. I thought that he was afraid to make a mistake. I think that Detroit was really sticky in coverage. Even when Darnold did release it in rhythm, it felt like there was always a guy there. Detroit was unbelievable. Darnold was also playing afraid tonight, I thought. I think that he was really, really concerned with his own inaccuracy early in that game. It got in his head. Keep in mind, guys, he's the best quarterback against the blitz in the NFL by passer rating this year. It was a historically high passer rating, too, against the blitz. So this is what he's done all year, is have answers to blitz. Detroit gave him the blitz, and he had no answers. So I think the moment probably a little big. I think Detroit just came up with a really good schematic plan. We'll have to watch that one back to really get a handle on it. But I thought the early rhythm throws he missed really got in his head in this game. Luke, I want your thoughts on that.
It's so hard for me to say this because I don't know what the vibe is like. I'm not in any of these rooms, but boy, it just felt like this moment was too big. This was the most hyped a regular season game has ever been. It's never been 2-14 team game. Like the lights were bright. And when all of your misses go high, I'm going to be like, you're too amped up. Like that's getting too amped up for it. But I do think, like to your point, Sam, like blitzing the heck out of Darnold, he has been good against that. However, the Cardinals took it to the Vikings for 2.5 quarters doing that until they kind of fell apart for their own reasons. The Lions did it to him last time. The Rams did it to him. Like the worst offensive games have been against you're sending 6-7 every single play because, and I think the one that pisses me off the most is the 4th and 10 near the end of the game. It's 4th and 10, and you got Jefferson running a post corner 30 yards downfield. Against 0. You got 3 routes and one of them's a post corner and the other 2 are also 20 yards. Like what? Stop going for a shot. Just convert. Like do something normal. And when it was too little too late when they did chill it out and they started going a little bit more, slant flat and a little bit more of their quick game packages, it chilled out a little bit, but then they could kind of play aggressive because they were ahead by a whole bunch and the defense can play you a little bit differently. So I don't know. Divide it how you want between O'Connell and Darnold, but Darnold, your throws sucked ass, and Kevin O'Connell, your play calls sucked ass. Those are 2 things that are facts. However, they're responsible for the game. I don't really care. Both things were bad. Come to Jesus.
Yeah, Kevin Seifert, per ESPN research, Sam Darnold, 8 overthrows tonight, second most of his career in a game, obviously. But Ron,
that was mid-game when
that was mid-game. You're right. Absolutely, that was mid-game. Ron, you go into halftime, though. Again, 3 trips down in the red zone, only 3 points to show for it. Then you had that kickoff out of bounds. You gift Detroit 3 points going in the locker room. A lot of self-inflicted wounds. Where was the turning point, though? Because everybody thought and hoped and prayed, okay, just calm them down, KOC, in the locker room. Drop that one good game drive script, I guess, coming out of halftime. Maybe put up that, quick 7 points, and all of a sudden you're back into it. At what point were you just too deflated? You said, okay, this is not our night. It's not ever going to click at this point for Darnold.
I think when it was 23-9 or 24-9 at that point, like after Gibbs, I think his 3rd touchdown, I was like, this is over. The defense just seemed deflated. The one thing I will say, Luke, it was 4th and 15, so the 4th and 10 ended up being a penalty.
Because they've got a delay of game because your operation still doesn't work right. Oh my God, figure it out.
The 18-yard routes, but yeah, you're right. On the deep one, I'm like, I don't understand. I get the second level, but you should have had maybe 2 underneath and then 2 like a dagger post.
I mean, you run wide choice to Hawkinson, he runs it up. Like you've converted that a million times on other concepts. Yeah. What are you doing?
And they weren't giving Sam Darnold enough options. They weren't like the motion. I could tell like they couldn't hear. So it just felt like the motioning, he couldn't really can the play because when he was killing it or canning it, you could see even the guard that normally turns back, which is Brandel, to like make sure, are you sure? He was unsure. Like everything seemed frazzled. Like it didn't feel like they had a plan for the crowd noise as far as killing the play or getting to a new play. And the biggest thing for me, though, is what they have to do going back to the drawing board is, again, there was no quick game. And the announcers said it. I think everybody at home eventually said it. Like, clearly Aaron Glenn realizes you want to hold the ball. So why am I going to try to worry about getting to you? We're just going to get to you with 4 guys. That's when you go quick. That's when you go screen. That's when you go bubble. And he didn't come out the gate with anything that seemed creative. It seemed like the same canned offense. And honestly, they said, you know what? In the past, we haven't taken Justin Jefferson away. Let's just take Justin Jefferson away and see what the rest of the team can do. And it felt very forced to Justin Jefferson, and it wasn't there. And he dropped a couple that he normally catches, and the one he caught and got his arm knocked, the ball knocked out. Like it was a bad game from him, period. Like, but again, this is where he's going to bounce back against the Rams, I think, and have a 125-yard game.
There's early in that game, Jefferson was wide open in the end zone 3 different times.
That's what I was. Yeah,
like he could have had those touchdowns. And Darnold just flat out missed him. So I don't want to hear about like Amik Robertson clamping Justin Jefferson. Like, we saw you on that fade, dog. We saw that. Okay. Yeah. The quarterback sucked tonight. That doesn't make that better.
Did a Viking have a good game? Is there a think
I always ask who's the, even though we lost and we lost by a lot, who's it? Like, give me one guy who we feel good about.
The unsung goat, like who we like low key are blaming. Andrew Van Ginkel. Is there a clearer 2-touchdown swing in a football game than a dropped pick six by the guy who only gets pick sixes? You're going to run down there. It's going to be 17-15, late third quarter. You go for 2, maybe you tie the game, and Detroit scores 2 plays later, 3 plays later. There were so many money downs like that didn't go the Vikings' way. Van Ginkel, hold on to the ball, dude. He controlled it too. He settled it with his left hand. He was going to bring it in. He wins that foot race against Goff. I mean, I know the Vikings played horribly, but butterfly effect, man. If you score that touchdown, it plays out so differently. The noise I made when that moment occurred, I would not want it to be replayed. Unbelievable.
Oh, man.
That moment, huge.
If you hit those 2 early touchdowns and you're going, 14-7, I think a lot of this game goes a little different because you believe a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think the Vikings lost belief. Mm-hmm. And when your whole thing, the whole Kevin O'Connell thing has been how great this culture is. That is what got them 14 wins. Is the culture, the belief, we're down and out. It's 19-6 against Arizona, but we can do this. And that crumbled. That's the concern for me. What's going to happen next time someone good gets a lead on you? What's going to happen next time you got to go into Ford Field, which is very possible. Mm-hmm.
2 weeks. That was actually an exchange after the game. I missed it live, but they posted it. Campbell said to KOC, "See you in 2 weeks." And again, if the higher seeds win,
it's scripted,
Minnesota.
So they already know.
Well,
yeah,
they already know,
scripted,
right.
So they already know, and
Yeah.
that's what the NFL wants. Yeah. Lots more to
Lowkey
get into.
Shot at the Packers and Commanders. Wow.
Lots more to get into. I want to keep dissecting some of these biggest plays of the game and biggest turning points like the Van Ginkel drop pick six. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by LinkedIn Jobs. When you start hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the job, right? Well, then LinkedIn Jobs, it's a no-brainer because LinkedIn Jobs has the tools you need to help you find the right professionals for your team faster, and it's for free. LinkedIn also gives you access to professionals you can't find anywhere else. Think about it. Hiring for your next job, it's going to be easy when you got hundreds of quality candidates, right? So easy, in fact, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate match within just 24 hours. It's time to join the 2.5 million small businesses that are already using LinkedIn for hiring. Try it today. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. LinkedIn, terms and conditions apply. Tonight's episode also brought to us by Rocket Money. Did you know Rocket Money helps you find subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? It happened to me. Turns out there were multiple subscriptions I didn't even realize I was still paying for, but luckily, Rocket Money made it easy to track them all down. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscription, but it also monitors your spending, helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings all at once. Whether it's subscriptions, could be your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year, Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Okay, what other just gut-wrenching plays just come to mind? Now you already called out the early stuff, the overthrown balls to JJ. Van Ginkel was probably the easiest one to point out. You know, Goff should have had a safety, by the way. And the one thing I will say about the Vikings offense, not converting down there, in the Detroit red zone, going for it on fourth down. The defense actually produced 2 interceptions shortly thereafter. So that's like the only thing they kind of had going for them after that. But the Goff no-call safety, that was a bummer. What other just plays kind of swung this one big time in Detroit's favor?
The 2 fourth downs that Detroit converted, 4th and 5, crosser to Jamison Williams, free rusher. A free rusher at Goff. He's just got to lay it out there to J-Mo, makes the catch and run. They score the next play. Enormous early in the game. And then late, I think this is my turning point where it felt like the game was probably going to go Detroit's way. The second touchdown to Gibbs, 4th and 1, again, free rusher at Goff, and Ginkle beat by Gibbs, touchdown to give Detroit the 17-9 lead. Goff against the blitz, he tore them up in week 7, 15 of 16 for 165 and a touchdown, and he did it again. Haven't seen the numbers yet. It's going to be gaudy for Goff against the blitz. I think those 2 money plays, 4th down, man. The Vikings needed to have the 4th down edge in this game, and Detroit did, and that was an absolute killer.
Yeah, and you went into halftime 10-6. It was totally a game at halftime.
Yeah.
And outside of that first big, long, arm punt thing, the Lions unspooled horrific scoring drives. And I think the dam kind of broke on that one Sam was talking about, because then you miss a field goal and you get the next drive, which was chunk after chunk after chunk after chunk after chunk. The only remotely good thing that happened on that drive was Van Ginkel getting a pass breakup that probably we wish was more.
Right.
So, I don't know. The dam broke. A team like that, you're not going to hold them to 17 points. You have to do something on offense.
Right. The will, and again, looking at these and even saying these out loud, in no way am I saying one of these plays changes the game when you lose 31-9. But losing the momentum right before halftime, you got the absolute snot kicked out of you. But losing the momentum right before halftime with that Will Riker kick out of bounds. I know it's just 3 points. Again, they lost by 22? But it was just self-inflicted. I think people wanted to see the Lions just go out and beat the Vikings team that we've seen the last 2.5 months. Not all these self-inflicted wounds that were just very uncharacteristic. Ron, if I would have told you before the game or leading up throughout the week that TJ Hawkinson and Jordan Addison would have a combined 14 targets in this game, they'd catch 3 of 14 for 9 total yards, what would you say?
I would say no chance. But when you look at, TJ Hawkinson's, I'd say coverage. They brought this up numerous times. They kept saying the linebackers were playing deeper because the 49ers absolutely murdered them on play action. And so they weren't allowing that space that normally you would get in the middle of the field. But the play for me still is going to be the Justin Jefferson touchdown that he should have caught. It's high, but he makes those catches. And he even knew it after he did it. There was no, it was no nothing. He looked at himself. He looked, he was dejected. He did not look like himself. And so, again, this is one of those villain arc moments. I hope that he tears up the rest of the playoffs the rest of the way, because this is one of those where you get back to Minnesota tonight and you want to go on the jugs machine at 2 a.m. You are just absolutely pissed off. You can't go to sleep. Now with the Monday night game, I don't know what their schedule looks like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but I know we have shows that we've already planned out all week. So I know Vikings players, John Randall's going to be involved, but this is one of those where you don't want to hear anything about media. You don't want to hear anything about the next game. You want to go get on the jugs machine and you want to just sweat a little bit just to get this game off of your back. But that catch to me, again, I don't know, because they said, he looks like he tried to get his feet down and he looked away. I just think the ball was a little bit high and maybe he just was just couldn't hold on to it. I don't know. And then he still kind of double clutched and caught it, but he was too far out of bounds by then.
Sam, let's veer over to the coach's corner here. Let me start with you. Flores had a really tough time with these guys back in, week 7 with the dagger concepts, chewing up the middle of the field. We all remember that stuff, the big plays, etc. Meanwhile, you think about KOC, his lens. He was 0-4 against Campbell in his last 4 games coming into tonight. If they see these guys again, how much, kind of what Braun was talking about, how much of the game plan really needs to be tweaked? What specifically do you think on offense or defense needs to be one of the first things that's changed? Or do you think it was just more of a lack of execution tonight?
Yeah, I think the execution for sure. I'm thinking more about the defensive side of the ball and how you want to approach Jared Goff. I was really thinking that this would be a game where you show a lot of players at the line of scrimmage and then drop much more often than you have been. I can't wait to see the blitz rate because I thought for sure they were going to play more coverage in this game. And I guess I don't necessarily know if there's a great way to defend Detroit. I just know that Jared Goff kills you against the blitz. And when Jared Goff struggled the most this year against Houston, they blitzed him 3 times. And if you can get some pressure with 4, that's probably the way to beat Detroit. Now, their offensive line's good. Maybe they lost Kevin Zeitler tonight. I mean, maybe they're a little more shorthanded. And we can get into injuries. They also lost Arnold and O'Connor, like more injuries for the Lions. But I don't know if sending so many guys after Jared Goff is the answer, because he's one of the best at having a solution to it. So defensively, that's what I would do. I mean, offensively, we're going to talk about short game, concocting some adjustment to get the ball out a little faster of Sam Darnold's hands, because he was in the pocket so long tonight. It was hard to watch.
It's always what it is. And they've won games by just kind of pressing the gas harder and saying, nope, we're just going to keep going for it because a 40-yard pass can turn this one around. And it just kind of never came. And this is the sort of game that like comes to you when you don't have a counterpunch. So for what I need, you need to bring plan Bs into games. Flores cannot go into a game saying we're going to blitz all day long, this is the thing we're going to have, and then just kind of have no way to back off of it. And just know I don't think it's a willingness. I think Brian Flores can call whatever plays he wants. I don't think they felt prepared to rush 4 and do those stunts and those coverages. Like, I don't think they felt confident in that. And I think that's a preparation error that then you walk in and you get caught with your hand in the cookie jar too many times. And suddenly you don't have another thing you can go to. You at both sides of the ball. If the shot play thing isn't working, you need something you can go to that isn't the most basic 2 quick game passes that you've ever seen. Yeah, great. Good slant flat and then maybe like a screen here or there. You look like the freaking Bears. Like, you got to figure something out.
Hey, Ron, real quick, we're going to preview this Rams game coming up next segment, but just real quick, you've lost to this team now twice this year. If you do see them again in the playoffs, just as a former player, right, player's lens, are you going in with some low-key, sneaky confidence, like you can't beat us 3 times in a row, there's no way? Or are you terrified knowing you got to go back to Detroit where you just got the snot kicked out of you?
No, I mean, I don't think it's either. I mean, honestly, you just know it's a game coming up. You know, it's a division opponent. You know, it's a team that knows you. You know them. The biggest thing that you can go into Detroit saying, if you have to go there to get to the next round of the playoffs, is at the end of the day, if you do what you're supposed to do, like in game 1, like in game 2, you probably win. And game 1, you should have won. Game 2, they just ended up running the ball down your throat when you couldn't convert. I think the different mindset going into the next game is whenever you have a chance to take points, take points. And I think that's going to be the key. Because, again, butterfly effect. If the Lions going to have down, how do they come out in the second half? How is the Vikings atmosphere? How is Sam Darnold feeling? Doubt crept in, and Sam and I talked about this on the Ron Johnson show. When doubt creeps in, it changes everybody's mindset of what might happen next. And even the fans watching the game, I know you guys felt the same way. Every time he backed up the pass, it just felt like nothing's going to happen here. Like, there was no Minnesota miracle coming. There was no magic. It didn't feel like nothing. It felt like leave those chains in the locker room, Justin Jefferson, because it didn't feel like sparkly. Like, nothing felt great. Like, it I don't know what it was, but the oxygen was taken out of that team. And, but here's the thing I always say. It's better to get punched in the mouth now than in the playoffs.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, they have a gut check now. So now they get to go back this week, and they're going to hopefully Brian Flores is going to take it out on the Rams and not give Matthew Stafford one chance.
I low-key think the Vikings celebrated the Super Bowl last week a little prematurely. I think last week they got a little high and mighty, a little too celebratory, if I'm going to be curmudgeonly about it.
I might push back on you on that, because I think what we saw was them celebrating Sam Darnold setting a career high with the water bottles and all that. That was about his stat line. But everything else, if you watch like the field access and the mic'd up and stuff, after that game, they were like, okay, yep, on to the next. Nope, that was the game before the game. Like they were more low key than I thought on that sideline, except in the locker room when Sam Darnold came in after throwing 377. So maybe that, but I don't know if it was like they celebrated the Super Bowl too. They were looking ahead to this one, I think, in the fourth quarter of that one.
Right. Yeah. A couple minutes left. Let's talk about this. Just the road ahead, I guess, for the Vikings come playoff time. Starts with the Rams in LA next Monday night. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode also brought to us by FanDuel. FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, FanDuel is giving you a chance at a huge return, $200 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 wager. Another fantastic promo from FanDuel. And I love FanDuel because when you get the hunch in the middle of the game, you can go check out the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play and so much more, all on the same page where you place your bets. Again, $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 wager wins. If it were me, I'd be looking at a heavy favorite money line for my bonus bets. Just for example, earlier today, the Bucks were 14.5-point favorites over the Saints. Well, they barely won, but that was minus 1,300 to win that game straight up. Those are the types of games you want to target with that first bet. Go check it all out over at FanDuel.com. Again, $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 wager wins. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. By the way, full deep dive from this one on the Minnesota Football Party with our guy Arif Hassan. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, keep up with all the action. Again, that's every Monday, every Thursday. All right, before we talk to about the Rams, Ron brought up a great point. You two kind of both touched on it, but are we all kind of in agreement then? Like, is this a game you have to look at and say, thank goodness this didn't happen in the playoffs? We have a chance to regroup, chance to tweak things up, or is this like, oh, no, we lost all the momentum. Sam Darnold turned into a pumpkin. We're backing into the playoffs now. We got to go on the road versus the Rams, a team we've already lost to, I guess, at this point. Anybody jump in?
It's a challenge.
Anybody?
It's a challenge to not think that way, right?
Right.
And yeah, they have a chance to. Like, you would hate that, you know, if they went into a wild card game and had this kind of letdown and we're going, oh, well, season's over. Yeah, they have a chance to bounce back. I think everybody's happy about that, but you got to do it. You know, you have to take the emotional gut punch that was showing up under the brightest lights ever and no showing. I mean, you pissed down your leg. And you have to look yourself in the mirror, find out how to be okay with that, find out how to correct what you did wrong, all without losing that hope and that belief and that swagger and confidence that this team had in droves when they won 10 games in a row, or 9 games in a row. You've got to do all of those things. And I think that is a difficult mental challenge. But for all this culture has been, for like the thesis of Kevin O'Connell is, as a culture guy, this puts that to the test. Can you give your players reason to bounce back and come out and play tough, like some have pointed out in the chat, against a team that rested its starters when you're all beat up from a physical Lions game?
Ron, you got one more in you?
Yep. Yeah. I got one more. So basically what I got to say is the same thing I say Luke said, but the bottom line is, Sean McVay was watching this game. So whatever you did wrong and whatever the Lions did good, stopping Justin Jefferson, getting after your offensive line, you have to look at that and say, how do we not let that happen? Blake Brandel felt like a turnstile at times. Like, he just kept letting the guy through. Zadarius Smith, same thing. You would chip him and he'd still find a way to get through. You have to get the ball out of Sam Darnold's hands a little quicker. I think it has to be a 3-step drop type offense versus the Rams, because that's what the Rams do. They get it out quick, and then when they know they can take a shot and they have you, then they take the shot. But it's got to be that, and a little bit more tempo. There was no tempo to the offense. The whole time it just felt like they were playing behind the 8 ball.
Love it, Ron. We'll catch you on Thursday's show at the Football Party. Check Ron out every Tuesday on the Ron Johnson Show. Give him a follow on X if you haven't already, at 3Ron Johnson. Sam, outside of the obvious, Sam can't play like that. The offense can't, not convert in the red zone like they did tonight. What is some Lowkey Sneaky, or just below the obvious, I guess, things that you're most worried or concerned or want the Vikings to fix first and foremost when it comes to this Rams matchup? Like, immediately I think of, like, is Will Reichert okay? Is he good? Are we good come playoff time? Or I see a lot of comments just in the chat. Puka and Cooper Kupp, they're going to eat us up in the middle of the field with the dagger and all that stuff going on. Just games within the games when you think of the Rams-Vikings next week.
Yeah, well, I'm worried that Aaron Jones is duct taped together right now.
Yeah.
That's 2 games where he's not been able to play his full allotment of snaps. One of the internet docs thought he got an IV at halftime, and he came out with kind of an IV wrap where you typically get that. He also had the quad contusion last week, and he's clearly rotating out more often for Cam Akers, who had a really nice run tonight. But you still want Aaron Jones on the field more often than not. So that concerns me, not having that element, because I think it is still a fairly significant dip. And we've seen early in these games against the Packers and even tonight against the Lions, couple really nice runs by Jones, and those just they mellow out everything, right? Like they give you favorable situations, and the Vikings didn't have enough of that in the latter stages of the game. This is the first flush it kind of game that the Vikings have had all year. I mean, their 2 losses were fairly tight. This is the first time where I think you say we got walloped in all phases, and now we turn to the Rams, who they've had 3 straight flush it games offensively. Now their defense has been good. They've scored like 1 or 2 touchdowns the last 3 weeks. I'm not counting today because today doesn't matter.
The Jimmy G game is weird.
Jimmy G game doesn't matter. Like prior to today, their offense has been abysmal. So like, I think that it's very easy to, if you want to go doom and gloom and say, the Rams smoked them offensively last time. Well, you can go that route, but you can also just as easily say, the Rams are slumping right now. The Rams are in a tough position. And the Vikings probably will have adjustments that they can make off of the last Rams game. So I'm not all doom and gloom, but I do think this is going to be an interesting test, because if they go one and done again under O'Connell after a 14-win season, that is going to be a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, that's going to be tough for sure. I still think losing Darisaw at halftime too, that had a huge ripple effect on them, at least offensively for sure. But getting no pressure on Stafford, 0 sacks, I believe, that is definitely something that still keeps me up at night when I think about this Rams matchup for sure. Anybody want to guess the line, the spread, the early spread?
Oh, I've already seen it.
I also saw it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Vikes by
that baby's
1.
going to change. What did you say?
Wow.
I
It
saw
was by
Vikes-
2.5 when we started the show.
Yeah.
Okay. This was 47 minutes ago, 49 minutes ago, anyways.
Yeah, so it's getting hammered. That makes sense. I mean, home dog in the playoffs is like a juicy bet everyone's going to love.
For sure.
But looking at that last one, like, I don't know. I feel like watching that Rams tape in that last one,
Yeah.
that was the worst the defense played.
Yeah.
And I don't think it had anything to do with
communication. Blake Cashman. We talked about that.
Communication was bad, but
We talked about that.
physicality was bad.
Yeah,
I think, again, they came off a physical Lions game, short week, West Coast. They were out of sorts.
Same thing again.
They were making mistakes that they did not make before.
Yeah.
So again, it's a thing to conquer. You want to prove to me that you can do that, because I think if you want to be a Super Bowl champion team, you want me to think of you as a champion. You can't have stuff like, we can't play on the West Coast, short weeks. Guess what? People overcome. So if you want to show that you are a champion, overcome. Somebody in the chat saying, we're making excuses. These aren't excuses. These are reasons that they lost that they need to not repeat. They're challenges.
They get the extra day this time.
You get the
Monday
extra
night.
day.
Yeah.
Well, not only
a
extra
full
day, but
week
they
in
played
general, but then
Thursday.
an
They
extra
played
day on top,
Thursday. They played the Rams Thursday last time. But yeah, you're absolutely right.
That's what I'm just saying. Yeah, the contrast.
Right,
but
for sure.
The other piece of this is that I think if you had won this game and Detroit came to play you in 2 weeks, wouldn't you also be terrified of that scenario, right? Like if you get past the Rams,
Depends how this game went. Like, how did you beat them? How did you beat them? And yeah, I guess you're right, Sam. Even if you won by 2 possessions or more, yeah, for sure, you're still going to be worried about the Lions coming into your home turf. For sure, you're right. Yeah.
If they miss another face mask, I'm crashing out. I'm running on the field.
man.
they did. They did miss another. Face
How many? Sam
Undersold,
Darnold
but-
is the least protected QB in the league. It drives me insane.
NBC
you want to talk about
didn't even acknowledge it.
you want to talk about protecting quarterbacks. You want to talk about the defense is so many disadvantages. Not against the Vikings. You can face mask all day long. They have called 1 all season. What did they miss, like 6? Get out of here. Home address is on the back of refs' jerseys right now. I am going to kill and eat you.
So the chat is mostly giving up on Sam Darnold. Like majority of people are done with Darnold after this game. Does this game affect your long-term opinion of Sam Darnold? For me, it should have no bearing. This is one game. He's had 13 games, 100 passer rating or more. I guess if he does the same thing next week,
I was going to say not yet. If he strings 2 in a row, it's going to influence. It's going to influence my thoughts and
there's a potential to.
But
I think if you bounce back, you have a good wild card game. We go, all right, off night.
Yep.
But if you show up in LA, you no show again, and we go, okay, the season ended when the lights suddenly got bright and you choked 2 away, and you go, you can hit the market.
And it's the way.
Bye-bye.
If they lose, it's the way they lose. Does he look like a pumpkin again? Is this on Darnold overthrowing? He's got the jitters, butterflies going, lights are too bright thing, or is it a 38-35 shootout and it's one of those games where whoever team had the ball last kind of thing? I think. It would influence my decision, though, Sam, and that's a good question. Final 30, 60 seconds, kind of parting thoughts. Darnold was limping, by the way. Did I miss any injuries outside of Detroit? Should Detroit fans be a little worried? They get the bye, but they maybe lose their number one cornerback for, I don't know, he got carted off. So we'll see. Too early to make any
and losing Zeitler might be tough.
Zeitler might be tough. They lost somebody else on the D line, somebody with the most quarterback hits. O'Connor, thank you. Yeah. But at this point, it's like, what's 2 or 3 more? Who cares, right? If you're a Lions fan, like, who cares? No injuries with the Vikes, right? Darnold, a little limping, though.
That ankle has been giving him problems off and on, it feels like, all year. And he's still got that tape on the right thumb. I wonder if that contributes to the wild high phenomenon that we saw again. And when he's off, that is what we see. We see him missing high almost every time. But I think the Vikings probably got out fairly healthy. Aaron Jones, I mean, still the worry. Maybe you get Pat Jones back for the playoffs and add to that pass rush a little bit. But yeah, I think the Vikings escaped.
Anything else jump out to you guys around the league? Week 18, half these games, nothing to play for. Carolina-Atlanta game was fun. Bryce Young looks like he's turning things around a little bit. Mike Evans getting his 1,000 yards for the 11th straight season. That was a very cool moment this week. New England beat Buffalo. Broncos are in. So bye-bye Bengals. They gave it a good run. Anything else jump out to you guys this week?
I'm just happy to see the end of some of these teams that have been dead in the water since before Thanksgiving. Yeah. It's like enough Raiders,
mentally,
enough
half
Jets.
these teams are in Maui. Mentally.
Yeah, enough Giants. Like these teams that like technically they got to be on red zone and we have to watch them because you got a fantasy. Get like enough. Yeah. Just let them go. Yeah. All right.
Titans officially have the number 1 overall pick. Will Dion let Shedeur play for Tennessee?
So, some of those teams, it's like, you don't even have the courtesy to show up when you're on everyone's TV.
Yeah, I know, that's tough.
I think their season ticket holders should like storm their facilities with pitchforks the way some of these teams ended the season.
I was really surprised at how a lot of coaches did not care about seeding when, like, in the Rams situation, right? Like they've fallen in to play a 14-win team now because they didn't care about today. Mm-hmm. The Commanders and Packers had backup quarterbacks in at the end, and the loser in that situation has got to go play the Eagles. Packers have to go play the Eagles because and granted Washington won, so it didn't matter, but the Packers could have easily played the Bucs, which I think is a much more favorable matchup. So that surprised me that people didn't care more about matchup because that's staring you right in the face, and you can pretty objectively say that one team's better to play than another, but a lot of caution today from coaches.
If the Vikings do end up playing the Detroit Lions in the NFC, that would have to be the NFC Championship game, I'm assuming. No, division. That would be division. Yeah,
it could be either one.
It depends. If the Packers or Commanders
Washington
win,
Packers, sure.
Yeah, if they win, they get to go, and then we would play like the Eagles or Rams or whoever the highest winner is.
Okay, if they do face Detroit in the NFC Championship game, let's say, will you guys come to grips that it's all scripted? Because that would be what Campbell said. Hey, see you in 2 weeks. Maybe you know
happened
something.
Before.
Maybe you know
happened
something.
Before. I'm reminded of the 1999 Jacksonville Jaguars, who
Mark
lost
Brunell, Jimmy Smith,
who went 14-2, lost 2 games to the Tennessee Titans, met them in the AFC Championship, lost, and then the Titans went to the Super Bowl and lost it by a yard to the Rams.
Kevin Dyson. Yeah, Dyson.
The Vikings could exercise the Philly demon in the divisional round, and then the Detroit demon in the NFC Championship.
Wow. Hey, well, we always said it all year. You want to be the best, you got to beat the best anyways. Go prove it. Vikes choke with the division and the 1 seed on the line tonight. Final score in Detroit, 31-9. They finished the regular season 14-3. Hey, huge shout out to all the everydayers out there that always make us your first listen. And again, go check out Ron Every Tuesday, Ron Johnson Show. Luke always crushing it over on Locked On Vikings. Sam Ekstrom, our captain on the Minnesota Football Party. New episode dropping tomorrow morning. Don't miss that. Make sure you like this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. January 13th, Vikes Rams in LA. Playoff football is here. Should be another good one. We'll see you next time. But until then, signing.